Is the Canon R7 good enough for filmmaking in 2026? Short answer, yes. Let's get into it. So if you follow this channel at all, you'll probably know my opinion on when it comes to cameras being good enough or not. In my opinion, almost all the cameras that came out in the last 10 years are good enough for filmmaking. But today we're going to talk about the Canon R7. So I'm going to list a few of the pros I think this camera has and then the cons. So that way you know what you're getting into if you have a Canon R7 or you're thinking about getting one. At the time of making this video, the Canon R7 has been out for about 3 to 4 years, I think. And it's really affordable to get. It was affordable when it came out. It's even more affordable now. You can easily get this camera below $1,000/euros on secondhand. So that's one of the pros this camera has. It is very affordable. And for what you get, it's even a better deal. My second pro is that it shoots 4K in C-Log 3. And that's very important. It's 10-bit video in C-Log 3. This means that you can have a lot more room to color grade and do all the good stuff you want in post-production. It's not raw or anything, but if you light your scenes and you compose your shots as you should to have as much of the final result as possible in camera, then raw isn't really that relevant. So if you do your job right, C-Log 3 at 10-bit video is more than enough. It has an option to record in 4K fine, which is basically a downsampled image from a 7K resolution. So the 4K is magnificent in this camera. Hey boy, how are you? Another thing this camera is really good at, surprisingly so, is low light. I shot a small sequence specifically for this video in very low light conditions, and I bumped up the ISO to 6500. And I did that for one reason and one reason alone, is because when you shoot C-Log 3, you should overexpose your image as to avoid introducing noise, because C-Log 3 has a lot of noise in the shadows, and if you underexpose, the image is going to be screwed. And considering this is an APS-C sensor, I'm very surprised with the low light capabilities of the R7. Another pro this camera has that can be useful in some situation is IBIS, in-body image stabilization. It's not something I think you need on a camera, but if you have it, it can be useful, and the R7 does have that. So if you're in a pinch, you don't have a tripod, and if you're not moving around or panning the camera too much, IBIS is very useful in those situations. The Canon R7 also does not have a recording limit, so that's really nice. Back in the day, it used to be like 30-minute record limit, not anymore with this camera. Because the Canon R7 is an APS-C sensor, it means that you can buy a lot of affordable lenses specifically made for cropped sensors. Those lenses are usually much cheaper than full-frame lenses, so that's something to keep in mind. On the other hand, if you want to use full-frame lenses, for instance, you have the ability to use a focal reducer, a speed booster if you will, that will basically turn the R7 into a full-frame body and give you an extra stop of light for every lens that you put on it. I personally use APS-C lenses, so it's not an option for me because I use the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, and that's a cropped sensor Super 35, so I prefer to use cropped sensor lenses. But for people that own full-frame lenses, it's definitely a good thing you can do with the R7. Another good thing this camera has is focus peaking. For filmmakers who are doing narrative work, manual focus is the only option we have. So focus peaking is really important. And to have that on the camera is really nice, and you don't have to get an external monitor for that. But if you do get an external monitor, you know that there's that option in the camera, just in case you don't. And talking about focus, this camera has superb Canon autofocus, dual pixel 2.0, whatever they call it. It's an amazing autofocus system. So again, in a pinch, if you're in a situation where you don't have anyone else to work with, or you're on a gimbal and you can't really manually focus, or in a situation that requires you to have manual autofocus just for that little situation that you're facing, it does have very good autofocus, even though, I'll say it again, you should not be using autofocus in narrative work. Please learn to manual focus, because focusing is an art. There is no way a machine will ever replace a human being when it comes to focusing. So that's a lot of pros for this camera, and there is just one thing I don't like about the Canon R7, and that is the rolling shutter when you record at the highest quality in 4K fine and C-Log 3. The rolling shutter is to the bad side. So any movement a little too aggressive, any panning that's a little too fast, you'll definitely notice that rolling shutter. So my recommendation, if you're recording something that requires a lot of panning and movement, you probably should record it on just the 4K normal version, which is a little less sharp than the 4K fine. But for an action sequence, for a shot that you're panning and movement, the loss of sharpness is not really going to be a game breaker at that point. So to sum it up, I think this camera is magnificent for filmmaking, as are most cameras these days. So if you happen to have an R7, you're thinking about getting an R7, it is also an amazing stills camera. If you want to do any photography work, you'll have the best of both worlds in one body. It has 32.5 megapixels. It shoots gorgeous photos and it shoots magnificent video. If you're wanting to make a short film or something like that, you can't go wrong with a camera like this. It's a great hybrid camera and it will do you great service when shooting narrative work. Now, I spoke about low light capabilities in this video on the R7, so I want to leave you with a little sequence I shot specifically for this video, and it is in a very low light situation, and I shot that at 6500 ISO. And I want you to take a look, judge for yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you think the image is terrible and noisy, or do you think it's passable considering it was shot on an APS-C sensor at 6500 ISO on C-Log 3. Take a look at that little short sequence, and I hope you enjoyed the joke I make about the camera, not the R7, but about the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, which is a camera I've been using since it came out. And the sequence I shot is kind of a joke on that. If you're interested in directing or editing, I have videos talking about directing dialogue scenes and editing dialogue scenes and all that stuff you might want to check out on this channel. And in the meantime, I thank you for your patience and your tolerance to this video if you've stuck this far. And I hope you have a good one. Enjoy the clip that's coming up next, and I will see you next time. Yeah, I'm in the room. Looks like he's working with a 7-year-old Blackmagic Pocket 6K. Yeah, he's no opposition. This guy's a dinosaur. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's not even worth stealing. I'm not gonna take this. Okay. Okay, I'll be there in 10. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. Hey boy, how are you? I'm my little boy. Sorry about that.